Kathleen, the ruling party is said to benefit here, perhaps and arguably, from the way it handled this outbreak, is it not?
Hi, that's right. The ruling party has been claiming some credit over their effective containment effort of the COVID-19, and they have certainly done a good job. They've been praised with the aggressive testing, transparency in their information sharing, as well as the treatment with the healthcare system that's been very well placed in Korea. However, we think that their economic performance hasn't been as one of the most of the strengths that they could claim the credit for, so we'll have to see. It's going to be a very close race.
Well, if President Moon does manage to win, he's got a great opportunity, hasn't he, to remodel the economy, which has been his long pledge.
President Moon has been certainly pulling up some of the major structural changes in the labor market, as well as the welfare sector and the household income under the household income-led policy. But for the past 2.5 years, we have seen the domestic economy struggling, especially over the drastic changes in the job market, with the minimum wage hike pretty drastic over the past 3 years, with the 30% accumulative increase, and also the 52-hour weekly work hour limit that's been also difficult for some of the SMEs to implement with the changes that hasn't been prepared for.
Lots of challenges in the economy, and the BOK has been cutting rates. It's been pledging to buy bonds to ensure liquidity. The question really is, what do you do with that stimulus? Where should that stimulus be deployed?
The Bank of Korea has been quite proactive with its measures to inject liquidity into the market, and it also made a 50 basis rate cut at the emergency meeting back in March. So we assess that the BOK has been quite timely and swift in its providing stimulus, and also the countering the risk in the market side for because of the virus. The question would be the liquidity going into the market. They're targeting to the credit side of the market right now. It's mostly the local securities companies that's been suffering with the liquidity squeezed with their products linked to their structured notes, and it's going to be the BOK that's going to come in to provide last resort of liquidity at the end.
Kathleen, the opposition is weighing in on this. It's proposing coronavirus bonds for the public. How feasible is that? Is that viable?
The opposition party has also been putting a lot of efforts to counter the virus and also support the government in a way to provide the best containment effort and policy support. But what we think the opposition party will be holding against the ruling party is the weakness in the economy so far. The economic policies that's been, in a way, not so much of a policy success in the past 2 years is going to be something that the opposition parties will hold against the ruling party in this election.
Kathleen, does it surprise you that an election is actually taking place, a national election taking place, against the backdrop of this pandemic?
It was certainly debatable whether Korea should go with this election and missed this massive outbreak. And it's certainly true that the Korean situation has been stabilizing after China, and compared to the U.S. and Europe, it's been very well contained so far. We've seen below 50 new cases in the past week, and I think another week or two, the Korea might think about transitioning to prepare for more sustainable mitigation strategy from this very extreme social distancing. We're also seeing a very rare side of where the voters are wearing masks and plastic gloves and being checked their temperature on site, and if it does go very successfully without the further outbreak after the election, I think it's going to be a very good model for other countries waiting to hold the elections this year.
Oh, absolutely. We've got the US later this year as well. But Kathleen, overall, how much damage has been done to the Korean economy?
So the stabilization in the number of new cases and the COVID-19 situation is very well contained, but the story on the economy is quite different. We're looking at technical recession for the first half of this year. The economy has been suffering already domestically, but from the second quarter and onwards, we think that the external sector will be the one taking the hit. We have the global growth looking at negative 2.7%. That's worse than the global financial crisis, and the U.S. and Euro area also entering technical recession, with the China economy growing just 1.2% this year. So altogether, with the Korea's economy open to such external vulnerability, we think that the Korea export is going to suffer negative growth for the whole year, and also that would impact the local manufacturing sector, production, and onto the job market, which we're waiting to see the official data for March this Friday.
Kathleen, the EU is an important market for South Korea. We saw exports to the EU drop about 20%, and expectations are that that will continue or even heighten given the expectations of extended lockdown in the EU. I mean, how much of a headwind is that?
So Korea is most exposed to, in terms of exports, to China and then to U.S., but the Euro area is certainly a big market as well. Combined with the U.S. and Europe, we are looking at 26% of total exports, and the outbreak situation very much at the risk level in both of these areas are posing a big risk for the Korean exports. We think just this first 10-day export data that's already shown a plunge to the Euro area is going to continue into the whole month, and we think it's not going to be something quickly recoverable through the second, even the third quarter this year. We're only expecting some recovery by the fourth quarter to the first quarter of 2021.